Hello Internet, and welcome to another segment of The Fire Dragon. In this segment, I'm going to take a game and its story or mechanics or something else that's really notable, like the weapons or abilities, and stack them up against reality. Today, we're going to challenge our world with the story of Dark Souls. In Dark Souls, both 1 and 2, you are an undead that's cursed to die and be resurrected, and die and be resurrected, and die some more and be resurrected, to a set place over and over and over and over. Slowly, as this happens, your character becomes more and more insane, or what the people of that world call hollow. And people go hollow for different reasons. They tend to go hollow for but mostly it's because they no longer have faith to continue, or the hope that anything's going to change the next time they die and be resurrected again at some random fire in the middle of nowhere. Now, they just, once they go hollow, they simply just start gathering souls and killing people to gather those souls, because that's really the only place you can get souls are from other people. And they just do this over and over. They gather souls, and then they gather some more souls, and then they gather more souls. And you're probably wondering at this point, how is this anywhere near what we do in life at all? Well, it's actually really simple. We are people, just as the Hollows are people, or they were once, and really and truly they still are. We're bound to life, just as they are bound to live. They can't die to an extent. They can be killed, so they can die. And we do very similar to what they do. In life, we wake up and we eat and we go to work, then or we go to school, and then we go home and we eat and we go back to sleep, and then we wake back up and we eat some more and we go back to work and or school and come back home and then eat and then go back to sleep, and you just do this time and time again. Some people even begin to lose faith or hope that this is ever going to change, and just kind of start doing this very mindlessly, and it becomes a cycle for them, and they just kind of get set in it, and they just wake up, and then they go to their next step, next step, next step, and they have no hope of ever changing this in the future, that this will always be what it always has been. Now, even to the point that they go until their bodies are no more and they're falling apart. And this is exactly what happens in Dark Souls. You see that most of the enemies that you fight, not all, that have hollowed are falling apart, and their bodies are pretty much no more. They're very, very decrepit on the inside and the outside. But in Dark Souls, they gather souls, and we tend to gather money or other things, but in Dark Souls, souls are your currency. That's right. Mindlessly gathering money or other product, creating things, working or studying, with no way out of an endless loop. This is no different than the world of Dark Souls. You meet a lot of undead in the game who haven't hollowed. in both 1 and 2, and they make it their goals to learn or become rich or travel or help people or find lost ones or become an honorable person or redeem their flaws that they've had sometime in the past. But eventually, they too go hollow at the end of their story, at the end of their quest. Every single one. Specifically because at that point they have nothing else to live for. You've either helped them to the point that they realize there's nothing else they can do and that you're going to do it, that you can do it better than they can, or that they have found their end and they have found their wealth of knowledge, or they have become rich, or they've reached their goal in some way, shape, or form. And then they go hollow because there's no hope, because they've got what they wanted and they don't need anything else, and now they have nothing left. And they have no reason to believe that there will ever be more. And reflecting upon this, you can see it's parallel to the plights of our own world. But there is hope. For as we hear throughout the entirety of the Soul series, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, all three, that even when a fire fades and only darkness remains, that there is still embers within the ash that can light the flame anew. There is always a spark, and there is always light, even within the darkest of souls. The goal of the game, in general, is to rekindle the ancient flame, and to bring back light, to bring back fire and light and life to the world. But there's a little more to it than just going and lighting the flame, or that would be a really short game and a really boring life if all you had to do was relight the ancient flame. You have to overcome many obstacles. Lords, kings, you have basically the equivalent of gods in Dark Souls 1. They call them lords. You have to overcome them and gather their souls in order to even get to the ancient flame, to prove your worth. And in Dark Souls 2, you have to overcome kings and to prove your power to become the next monarch. And speaking of monarchy, both games take place in what used to be huge kingdoms. These spanned for endless direction, in every direction, endlessly. Up, down, north, south, east, and west. You had you had all these people in this kingdom in an age of fire, of life. And eventually that fire faded, and that's where you're playing, is after this fire has disappeared and the king is gone, or the lords have fallen below what they used to be. This is very parallel to our world. You have kingdoms that come and go. You have empires. You had the Greeks, then the Romans. You had many a Japanese dynasty. You had Europe. You had, which then gave rise to America. And throughout all of this, it's a cycle. You have a great empire rise to the surface out of the ashes of an old empire. But then that fire fades, and a new empire is born from the ash and the rubble of the one that came before. literally or figuratively. And that's exactly what happens in Dark Souls. You're a character who is bringing about the rising of this new empire, this new kingdom, this new dynasty by lighting the ancient flame. And in retrospect to life, that's exactly what happens. Is there's a person that lights a new fire and brings about a new age of kingdoms and a new age of life in general. But on a personal level, the game even has things that aren't so grand. And you can take the becoming a monarch and taking the throne literally. And that's where you get the dynasties and the kingdoms rising and falling. But there's more to it. We do have some quotes that say things like, "Seek strength, and the rest shall follow." We get this quote from the late King Vendrick of Drangleic. My mouth. Can't talk today. And he says this for you to gather the crowns of the other kings to prove your strength, so the rest will follow. Now, that sounds odd when you take it on a personal level, but let me elaborate. The brighter the flame, the deeper the shadow. Now, we hear this quote a couple of times throughout actual Dark Souls, the first game. And they say that the brighter the flame, the deeper the shadow, and it's not as evil as it might sound, because we tend as humans to take darkness as a bad thing, and we take evil, darkness, and shadows all as kind of one thing, and it's not referring to shadows as darkness or evil. Because when you're a shadow, it's projecting outward. It's being remembered. It's projecting outward through time and space. And people are seeing this shadow. And they're following where the shadow is coming from, moving towards the light for themselves. Now, what that means is that by lighting the flame, if you can light a bright flame, your shadows will be longer, deeper, farther reached, and they will be remembered and seen in ages to come. And with that, you will have where people are coming from this future in these different ages, in these different times, and following your example and remembering what you did in order to reach the goal of lighting the flame or the hope of the world. On a personal level, their hope, their flame. And then it comes down to what's the point, because no matter what anybody does, they eventually go hollow. They eventually die. They are eventually someone else. It's the will we have to survive and the strength we show in doing so. And it's the fight we have to avoid becoming forgotten or hollowed that keeps us from becoming either. And what this really says is to break the cycle, we must take the reins from those who came before, be it lords or destiny, or kings, our bosses and the people above us, and to make life what we want it to be. instead of what it is, and to rekindle your hope for the future, and hope that people see this bright flame that you've lit for yourself through your shadow, and it drives them to light their own flame and become hopeful for their own futures and push forward one fire after another and rekindle the world on a personal level and on a global level, so the world can forever be in an age of fire. This has been another episode of The Fire Dragon, and I would like to thank everyone for watching. If you like the video, I'll encourage you to like, comment, and if you would love to see more episodes of gaming strategy or of versus reality, then I would also encourage you to subscribe. There will definitely be more coming. I enjoy doing this specifically because it's fun. It's really fun to look through all this information and find how things can be different in gaming, or how things relate to life and how stories are in general. I do plan on posting a couple of reviews coming soon. I picked up a couple of games that they're awesome, and I can't wait to actually get into them a little bit more and play them. Do some more versus reality and do some more gaming strategy. And once again, thank you for watching, and this is Ziu Dracul signing out.